Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. Today's show, we are going to recap UFC 249, which is written as 294 in my notes, which was awesome. Talk a little bit about Verdum versus Jacare at the 2004 Brazilian Championships for, not for IBJJF, for the other one.
No, it's they call it the World Cup.
World Cup, yeah. Yep, which is now defunct. As always on the show, I am your host, Maine, with my co-host,
Emil.
How you doing, Emil?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'd be doing a lot better if we didn't have about 35 minutes of technical snags ahead of this recording. Again, we are still in quarantine here in Baltimore, Maryland, so we are going to do this show remotely, bringing it to you in the best audio quality that we can. We're going to fix a lot of this in post, so hopefully you get a great sounding show. Dude, we have a ton of BJJ news this week. Things are kicking back off. Fight to Win has announced a slew of dates. Third Coast has announced a slew of dates. Jits King has announced some dates. Sug has announced dates. Spider Korea has dates. Red Bowie's doing things. People are leaving teams, and Mike Tyson might fight again. It is going to be a great show. I am super excited. How's your week going, Emil?
We're going to be previewing stuff this episode and covering it next episode. So, yeah.
God, I'm so excited. Oh, my God. I'm so happy that, that Seth Daniels is putting on events. He put on 2 events in a weekend. So we'll preview Fight to Win 139 and 140 in Dallas, Texas at the end of the show. But let's kick it off with news. How's your week's going? Good, Emil?
Yeah, it's been going great, man.
Did you enjoy UFC 249?
Oh my God, yeah.
That was crazy.
It lived up to the hype in unexpected ways. So yeah, it was great.
That is definitely a way to put it. So where do you want to start with news? Basically, news this week is basically everyone has announced
what
dates.
They want to hear when the dope shit is happening. So
right.
when is Spider? Let's start with Spider, because that's one of my favorite events.
So Spider Korea, the Road to Black Belt is back May 31st, has a group of purple and brown belt killers. We talked about this a few weeks ago, but given that the news segment this week is basically going to be, hey, stuff is coming back, you can now watch professional jiu-jitsu again, and guys that are probably better than you do awesome jiu-jitsu on live stream. So that's back in Korea. I think Korea, I've talked to 3 or 4 different people, actually more than that probably, in Korea this week. And Korea's coming up, and it seems to be Korea dealt with this coronavirus thing better than almost any other nation. They had mass testing. They just did a lot of things right. And Korea is starting to open things back up. So I've talked to League Royal, and I've seen some stuff coming out of Spider, and they're running events. I think League Royal is scheduled to run an event, I think, end of May. They're running League Royal 13, which is really cool. They put all their stuff up on YouTube, and it's filmed really well. They have some really fun black belt matches and some even color belt matches that are, it's just an open tournament that they film really well and put up on YouTube. So that's fun. Emil always loves Spider Korea.
Absolutely. It's going to be awesome. And we've talked about it before, but there's a lot of up-and-coming purple and brown belts. We have Josh Cisneros, who we've talked about a bunch in this show.
Yeah, he had the purple belt submission of the year, that TP choke at Fight to Win.
Yeah, he's had a bunch of flashy stuff. I'm pretty sure he has flying triangle finishes, stuff like that. So really entertaining guy to watch. Then we have another marquee promotion going on. Third Coast announced. You want to cover that one?
Dude, Third Coast. So Third Coast announced a slew of events. So Third Coast is doing them. Again, everyone right now is doing events with limited entry capacity. So we're not quite certain what that means, but we're based out of Baltimore, so I'm going to stream most of these anyway. Third Coast Grappling has announced a bunch of Kumite events. So closed door, limited spectators, I think under 100 spectators, and 100 capacity for the event is, I think, what most of the Texas promotions, which is right now what Fight to Win is doing and what Third Coast is doing. Third Coast Grappling has announced events on June 6th, June 20th, June 27th, July 11th, August 8th, and August 9th. So for their June 6th event, it is a Kumite style event. It is under 180 pounds. It is in the gi. For the June 20th event, it is over 180 pounds, and it is in the gi. For the June 27th event, it is the Kumite 3. It is over 180 no-gi, and then June 11th is under 180 no-gi, and then August 8th is Third Coast Grappling 4, and then August 9th is one of their kids' events. So That's fucking. And the bracket, by the way, for the June 6th event is stacked. That's been coming out. We've been getting like word about who's on that bracket. The 8-man bracket is Isaque Bahiense, Lucas Valente, Manuel Ribamar, Roberto Jimenez, Jake Watson, William Tackett, Pedro Marino, Gustavo Batista, and we are possibly going to see the 4th match between Pedro Marino and Roberto Jimenez.
Yeah, that is a marquee event right there. That's just like top level talent.
Dude, everyone's coming out of quarantine like, all right, we've got to put on amazing matches that we didn't get to do 2 months ago. So, dude, started off right. I'm super excited to preview that in a little less than a month now. We'll be actually probably like 2.5 weeks. We'll preview that card, and then we'll see it in a little less than a month. So that's awesome. There's also a wrestler versus wrestler super fight on that one, and we have Jordan Holy versus Jacob Alpin. It's been announced for that card. Jacob is the 155-pound champion for Third Coast in the gi, and Jordan Holy is the under 45-pound champion, 145-pound champion in no-gi. These two guys are going to meet in no-gi, and that's super exciting. So I can't wait to kind of preview all that, but it's all getting announced this week, so we want to go through for once, basically, actually talk about matchups that are getting announced in the news section and sort of get back on track with what the Grappling Rewind used to do. In other Roberto Jimenez news, Raul Jimenez posted some stuff about his team leaving Alliance. Really interesting, you can find this Reddit thread on it. It looks like they're leaving Alliance, and there's been some speculation that Roberto and Mikey are going to actually form their own team.
That would be outstanding.
Because Mikey just left Kaio's. Mikey and Tammy Musumeci just left Caio Terra's association. And if Raul Jimenez, who runs that gym that Roberto fights out of, is going to leave Alliance or has left, functionally been kind of asked to leave Alliance or like pushed out of Alliance due to some like money stuff, that would be a dope team. I know Roberto just got his black belt and is now world ranked after no time. Mikey, 3-time American world champion, like that is a powerhouse, that could be a dope new team.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
we'll see how that shakes out.
Let's see what else. Going through my notes. I had my notes in nice order. So Sug has been announced for May 31st, again, end of this month. Craig Jones versus Wagner Hosha, the rematch from EBI 11. Super excited to see what that is, because I think that was actually at 170, and there is no way in hell Craig is making 170 anymore. No. He actually probably could, but like it's going to be a shitty cut for him. So I think these, I don't know what they're meeting at actually for weight class, but so yeah, Sug has announced the card. I've been super happy with the Sug cards recently. That's got headlined by Wagner Hosha versus Craig Jones. It's got Andre Checo versus Austin Vandefort, the guy that just beat Boogie Martinez. It's got Brett Primus versus Jake Shields, which is like an MMA grappler fight. That should be a really fun fight. I forget actually who Primus replaced, but that's awesome. We've seen both those guys on Sug before, and we have Jordan Holy as well on that card. So, I'm not sure who the undercard is for that card yet, but the main card, those 4 fights are really evenly matched. Sug, I think, is doing a lot better job recently of much more evenly matching fighters. The Wagner versus Craig Jones match is super compelling to me, and I cannot wait to kind of go more in depth in that as it gets closer. In like 2 weeks, we'll probably preview that.
Yeah, that's a very unusual matchup, so I'm looking forward to it for sure. And that's in a little less than 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's the 31st. I mean, it's May 11th right now, 2020, when we're recording this, and that is May 31st. So they the same day as Spider, except in a different time zone. Both at undisclosed locations. Let's see what else we got here. Jits King has also announced an event on June 13th, and I have a bunch of athletes listed here for Jits King. Dude, it's a dope card as well. We have on that card, they're doing a 16-man bracket. We have John Combs. We have, I assume, Andrew Tackett, or William Tackett, Michael Galvao. We have Oliver Taza and Pedro Marino in that 16-man. Plus, we also have on the card Mateus Machado, which is Hobson Mora's son, who I think we've covered before. He did something we covered him on. I forget exactly what it was. I don't think he's a black belt yet, but, very good grappler. And a couple other guys. Diego Hayes is on there as well. Should be a super, super fun event as we get more information about that. Again, that's in June, so that we have a little more than a month. We have a month and 2 days before that card kicks off. But it's cool to see promotions, announcing things as restrictions get lifted, and if we've kind of figured out seemingly how to host events more safely. I think every week that goes by, we have more information about coronavirus and like what can be done safely and what can be done well. So that's a good thing. I'm really, really excited for the future, and I hope everything continues to be baller. In Grappling Rewind news, the events list is now back up on the grapplingrewind.com. There's also going to be a couple articles this week on the grapplingrewind.com that I'm writing. So look out for that. You can now check the website. It should be getting updated more frequently now that we're not sort of in this quarantine lull, because cool jiu-jitsu stuff is now happening. That was like the longest I've ever talked on the show in one go, Emil.
Yeah.
You got any points you want to add?
Yeah.
I'm super excited to be here, man. I'm so happy events are back.
Yeah, Red Bowie. Let's talk about that too.
Oh, yeah. So the Red Bowie Tournament.
Yeah. So they have a team-sponsored tournament, or like where there are 16 teams, and each one can basically get pays a fee through sponsorship. And right now they're half full already. So
yeah, it's a $160,000 tournament. And they are, per an Instagram comment today, they are half full, which is crazy, because that's a huge, I think, and the teams of 3, I think is what it was. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to shake out. I'm talking to Red Bowie to get some more information this week, and I've talked to them back a little and forth to get more information on it. That's super exciting. Again, I love big payout tournaments because it means your athletes are getting paid and the sponsors are putting up the money, so that's super exciting to me. But again, half full, you got $80,000 in the bank ready to roll. I assume, I'm super curious to see what sponsors jump in on this, because, that's a really, I think it's fight to win style rules is what he wants to do it as. So Red Bowie's been around the jiu-jitsu scene for a little bit now, and putting their money where their mouth is. So that's exciting. And in other news, I don't think I have any else jiu-jitsu news. Mike Tyson might fight Evander Holyfield again. So that is crazy 2020 news.
Yeah, pretty much. That's fucking nuts, man. Like I think we've all, or many of us, have seen the videos of Mike Tyson training right now, and he looks absolutely terrifying, like maybe even more terrifying than we last saw him professionally. But I think that's a freak show event. It's just one of those, like, come on.
We pretend like I'm not going to watch, and like, oh, I'm not going to support that. I'm totally going to support that. If Iron Mike wants to get in the cage again and fight,
why would Evander Holyfield take that?
I mean, I don't know. I thought there was something announced, and then I looked at it to write the news down.
Chael absolutely, just because he knows, like, Evander Holyfield is the one who Mike Tyson bit his ear off, right?
That is correct. Yes.
Yeah. So they're not going to fucking get in the cage for, like, fucking Sug. Like, come on. Those guys made so much fucking money at their primes. Like, why would they do that?
Man, I'll see. I'll watch it. So, that's all I got. So, again, we don't have a ton of jiu-jitsu stuff to cover. We're going to talk about Verdum versus Shockwave. That was supposed to... Shockwave was supposed to be on UFC 249. He got Corona. He got the Rona, day of the event. Or really, he was tested for it and then was found to have had it, or found to have it. And his cornermen were also found, 2 of them were found to have had it, or I can't say words right now, Emil.
Have it. They're positive.
Tested positive for it. So he was removed from the card, so we didn't see that fight. But Emil and I were talking about, potentially some grappling matchups that we could talk about, and we thought it was really fitting to talk about 2 guys that were supposed to be on the card, Verdum and Jacare, the last time they fought, which was actually... one of the last kind of years we saw both of them in the gi in 2004, and we wanted to talk about that matchup. So do you want to go through UFC 249 first, or talk about that old school matchup first? What do you want to do?
Let's talk about 249, because that was fucking mayhem. Like,
that was Jesus. The wildest shit in an empty arena. And what I loved about the empty arena was that it made you remember how hard these dudes hit. Because there was no crowd noise. Like when Ngannou murdered that dude with his fists in 18 seconds, you realize, like, oh, I understand he hits like a Ford Escort for all the memes. Like he just you felt like how hard it hit because there wasn't a crowd to dampen the noise. You're like, oh, he hit him with a lunchbox in his head, and he went like an undefeated pro heavyweight at 10-0 went unconscious in 18 seconds because Francis Ngannou connected like one good time.
What I don't understand is why someone would call Francis Ngannou out. Like who? Why would you do that? This is what happens. Like, what do you think was going to happen? What did you think was going to happen?
You think you're Stipe Miocic, and you can you know, defensively outbox him for a little bit, make him tired, and then like take him to the ground.
We just talked about when keeping it real goes wrong in jiu-jitsu. This is like the prime MMA example. Like,
man, he punched him in his face really hard, and then he went to sleep. And then there was
he hit him on the way down too. Like
he did. Then the best thing was Ngannou celebrated and then walked back over. I gotta get the guy's name because I had his name here, and my notes are now like chugging along with all the technical difficulties we're having tonight.
Rosenstruck.
Yeah, and then Ngannou like walked over to the edge and just like looked at him when he was unconscious for a while, and I went, "Ooh, Ngannou just killed a guy." Like, ooh, man, he's checking that out. Where is it? Yeah, Rosenstruck. 18 seconds, man. Like it's a GIF. Like you've seen that entire fight in like a GIF, not even a full length GIF.
You got the GIF treatment, man.
Dude, it's like when Masvidal knocked out. Keep going.
Yeah. Oh, it's just a whole round highlight reel, like just terrifying. I mean, this whole the main card especially delivered.
Oh my god.
Like, I didn't see the Hardy match. I came in to see Qatar absolutely, like, decapitate Jeremy Stevens. Like, that was just, oof. That was brutal. Then, of course, after that, Ngannou murdering a guy in the cage. We just talked about that. And then, dude, Cejudo and Dominic Cruz.
Let's talk about that.
There's plenty to talk about because, you know, Dominic is, you know, at his prime, you know, one of the best people to enter the octagon.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he's the guy. Him and Faber are the dudes that built the bantamweight division, and it's because of those two guys. Not just because of those guys, but like they are Faber and him are a big reason why the UFC has divisions below lightweight.
Yep.
Like in the era, like WEC was where it was at, and those two guys were the kings of WEC.
And like, dude, just like stylistically, really entertaining to watch Dominic. Unbelievably charismatic and like confident and well spoken. Like he's like what you want in a champion, which is why he has a commentating like gig now. But like, you know, Cejudo talked about a lot of trash about how like fragile Dominic was, and like, man, I was looking back on it, and Dominic fought 6 times since 2013. So
less than once a year.
Like, yeah. So it.
I mean, his last win was over. Was it Faber or Dillashaw in 2016?
I think it was Faber. I'd have to look
I looked this
again.
up earlier to make a point on Reddit or in the chat or something like that, or maybe it was Simon. And I've since then forgotten. But, dude, Cejudo, I love what Cejudo did here for the finish. So Dominic, if you've watched Dominic fight for years, when I would hope you have, or if you haven't, you should, because he's a historic guy. He tends to duck his head really low and throw these big, wide, looping punches, and he's notoriously super hard to hit, because he's got this very, very weird herky-jerky style. And Cejudo timed one of these ducks.
It was... So typically, like, it wasn't off of a throw. It was off of a single leg attempt.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, this is actually very informative for grappling because, like, you kind of, like, throwing naked takedown attempts is, like, although, okay, he tried to chain it off of a, I can't remember if it was a hook or what, but he tried to do it, but he'd done it probably 3 times earlier in the match, and Cejudo read it. And
need him in the face.
Need him in the face. Oh, my God. And there was, you know, Saddam goes down, and there was a lot of certainly from Dominic, a lot of controversy, but to me, and even the commentary, because like who was it? It was DC, I think, who like
I think it was
obviously like
DC and Rogan.
Yeah, like those guys, they know they're professional with Dominic, so they were, you could see a little bit of the bias because to me, I was like, oh, he's out, he's done, like, and they were like, oh, I don't know about it, but you could see his hands were on the mat, and it wasn't Dominic like tried to say that he was standing up, but he was not. He was out.
So I saw this. I watched this over and over and over again because whenever there's a weird stoppage, I always like to exhaustively watch it. So at least if I'm making an argument, which I'm gonna do on either this show or the internet for no reason, because I use my time effectively apparently. And I watched it, and Cejudo hits him with the knee, Dom goes down, and then Cejudo throws a total of like 11 shots. And 6 of those shots land. So Cejudo throws 11 shots. Dom does nothing to protect his head and face and gets hit with 6 of the shots unanswered. And you can argue he's getting up, he's over, he's at a leg kind of, but Cejudo's behind him, and the fight stopped. So you can make an argument, yeah, he was still getting up, he was working, but the criteria for stopping a fight isn't you're still working, is you are intelligently defending. And he was maybe getting up.
He wasn't getting up. He wasn't getting up.
I think he may have gotten up. Like again, it's not. It's not a bad stoppage. I think it's a good stoppage. He may have gotten up, but the criteria for stopping a fight is not they may have gotten up. It's is he intelligently defending? And
his hands were on the ground, and as you said, instead of defending himself or pushing himself up, they were just on the ground. Like he was out.
Yeah, I think if you stop that fight, somebody said it online, if you stop the fight 2 seconds before, it's a great stoppage. If you stopped it where it is, it kind of looks a little weird because it's maybe he's getting up, maybe he's not. So it's a weird place to stop the fight, but it doesn't make it a bad stoppage. So I thought it was really interesting. Then Henry Cejudo retires, maybe. I honestly, like, the more everyone thought, like, he was joking around, like, he's like basically like trying to get.
No, it makes sense, dude. Like, yeah, especially at that weight class. Like, what does being a champ get you? Like,
I mean, if you look at DJ, look how dominant DJ was for how long, and then like kind of what he got paid and what he sort of took away from that. He was kind of like, yeah, I don't know if I want to fight these killers.
Dominic Cruz is the best that you can hope for. So yeah, Dominic has the commentary gig, and that's basically the best you can hope for as a champion in that weight class. We haven't seen anyone else do more with it.
And you had to fight killers for the entirety of your career and never really take an easy fight. So Cejudo was like, miss me with that.
Yeah, totally understand.
And again,
it's interesting though. He said he thinks that he can make the Olympic team again, which would be really interesting.
I don't believe he can.
No, he's like 33, right?
Yeah, and that is past the prime for collegiate, especially the weight class that he wrestled at. Again, this is probably something we can talk to Rob Sullivan about to get a better understanding of, because he has Cejudo has a really interesting sort of story with wrestling. I think, from my understanding, again, this is out of my ass, is that he was really not forecasted to win that title. And that was like a super, like not a fluke, but it was a super like unexpected thing the year that he won it. Like he wasn't favored at all, but dude, props to Cejudo.
Clearly the dude punches up. Like, and maybe even like, we keep underestimating him, and the concept of him punching up is like wrong. But like,
dude, I've always underestimated him, and I've been wrong repeatedly over. Like, the dude is legit an amazing fighter. Like, you don't take the beating you took from Marlon Moraes and then come back and then stop him like he did. He fought DJ and made like, and I didn't think he won the second DJ fight, but it was really, really close. And very few people have taken DJ to a really, really close fight. Like, DJ usually like styles on you and looks like the best in the world. He is the first dude to ever stop Dominic Cruz in a somewhat controversial stoppage that was pretty good. Like, dude, Cejudo's a gangster. Stopped TJ Dillashaw in like a minute or something like that.
Yeah.
Really, really good fighter. The more I talk about it, actually, the more I was like, he retires, whatever. I'm kind of like, I actually kind of want to see him fight a few more years. But props to him.
I would too, but I respect that. Like,
Yeah, I do too.
Until the UFC starts treating their champions, making it more financially lucrative for them, then I totally understand that decision.
Yeah, so awesome him. You want to talk about the main event, or you talking about Anthony Pettis versus Donald Cerrone?
Talk about the main event because there's some grappling news or whatever you want to call it in there.
That's not really
Yes,
new. I think I know where
so
you're going. That's not really news.
Ferguson got murdered for 20 points. Brutal to watch. One huge disparity between the Justin Gaethje and Tony Ferguson was their corners, right? Like Gaethje's was giving specific technical advice, specific strategic advice, and Gaethje was executing it perfectly. Obviously, from the beginning, it was clear that whatever Tony was attempting was not working, but they didn't do any adjustments. And finally, fourth round, Eddie Bravo says, like, go for an Inamari roll. And Tony does this absurd front roll into, like, thin air, was nowhere near Justin. It was... Whew. That being said, I would have lost my mind if he hit the Inamari roll.
What? You got to say it right at least. Imanari.
Okay.
You're saying like a sushi roll.
I've seen it spelled both ways.
Masakazu Imanari is the man's name.
Okay.
Imanari, yeah. Masakazu Imanari is a small Japanese man that we've covered a bunch on the show that does hella Imanari rolls, which is why the move is named after him.
See, that's how I was originally saying it too, and then I saw it spelled INA, but who the hell knows?
Watch me get it
probably
wrong.
Some Redditor.
Like, I've called it that for years and years and years, but again, we've watched me talk about guys on the show for years wrong, and then like we talk to them, it's like, oh, my name's actually this. You're like, cool, I've called you the wrong name for a year and a half. Awesome. Yeah, it was just really interesting. The cornering between Trevor Whitman was super...
It's Imanari, you're right.
Yeah, was super... I loved... You saw that Justin Gaethje was having fun in the fight, and he put on a masterful performance. And there's one thing that was super telling me in the cornering advice is that Trevor Whitman was talking to Gaethje about, becoming overextended, getting tired, and like he goes, what happened last time? And Gaethje goes, twice. And it was this super conscious moment, and you saw that Gaethje was still there, still with it, actively listening to what Trevor Whitman was saying and going, yeah, I got stopped twice making this mistake. And at the post-fight, he talked about, you can't fix what's not broken. It's like, I wasn't losing. I was doing this thing and it was working, so I wasn't going to change it. Then I lost, and I had to make these adjustments. And then, Tim and Trevor Whitman went back into the camp and made these adjustments. And Whitman, I think in the second or third round, goes, hey, take 20% off your punches. And you see Gaethje make that adjustment. He's able to, use the information that he's been given. And Trevor Whitman in the corner is tapping certain places and giving him specific cues. And you see Gaethje modulate a game plan that's working really well, throughout the course of that fight. And it was super interesting to see the contrast in Ferguson, that Ferguson is a guy that typically goes in there, is pretty wild, and is able to get it done. And we've not seen him struggle in this way against Justin Gaethje. And there was against guys, there was a question as to if it was the weight cut that Ferguson did 3 weeks ago that had him looking like this.
I don't think so at all. I think watching Ferguson, you could tell he didn't so much have a strategy at all. Like, he wasn't going in attempting to do something, and that kind of tracks with the way that we've seen him fight. We've praised him. He's being praised for his unorthodox fighting style, but it's clear that he kind of improvises and then kind of rolls with it and finds openings that way. But Justin was super disciplined. I mean, he was just super tight. He didn't overextend himself. He wasn't trying to chase Tony down, and he was just popping him with those really ridiculously stiff jabs and just even 1-2s. And Ferguson had his hands completely down too. It was a very bizarre sort of, it's a bizarre mentality too. I understand having a chin, but it was almost like he was trying to prove how tough he was and was not focusing on like finding a way to win, you know.
It was a super weird performance from Ferguson, I think.
Because he started doing those weird like leg punches, you know, and like it's just someone speculated that like maybe he was doing that to set up the Imanari roll, you know, to like because to get Justin so used to him changing levels and like reaching out with that arm. But I don't know, man. Like I think that's a stretch. I don't think you game plan an Imanari roll in like a, you know, interim title fight. Like,
I mean, Ferguson notoriously throws them like not infrequently in fights, but it was interesting advice to hear from a corner. And an Imanari roll is something you typically need like a pretty decent amount of speed to hit effectively. It's not something that you can sort of like throw like a jab. You need, so when Ferguson throws, I think in the third round, he's already been slowed down, and that's why it's sort of fourth round. He's already been slowed down, and then he rolls out sort of in the middle of open space and gets nowhere near Justin's legs. And it was just interesting corner advice, and hearing the contrast between, you know, the red corner and the blue corner here, I mean, between Whitman and Bravo, and I don't know who else was in Ferguson's corner. It was very interesting that they were not giving him particular like technical boxing advice. At one point, he was down, I think, 2 or 3 rounds, and they said, "Oh, your boxing is beautiful."
He was clearly down. Like, I don't think there was a single round that he, certainly no round that he'd clearly won. In my personal esteem, I think he'd gotten pretty clearly beaten every round.
Yeah.
But
I think the one uppercut, when he finished the round with the uppercut that knocked Gaethje down and staggered Gaethje hard, I think that's the only round. Again, I wish I had more notes in front of me for this. That's the only round I think you can make a really good argument he might have won. And then getting stopped in the 5th round, you know, when there's about a minute left, I think it's a really good stoppage from the ref. We don't see a ton of stoppages like that in MMA. I think we're starting to see them more. But it was interesting. And Ferguson kind of protested the stoppage because, you know, guys in MMA, they like to get finished. And so he's still there. Yeah. He's still fighting. He's still up. He's not dropped. He's not shelled. I understand that, but from a career perspective, like I would love to see Tony fight a couple more years, and
he definitely took time off of his career.
Yeah,
he definitely took time off of his career.
The shots that Ferguson took, I cannot think of another fighter in the 155-pound division that can take those shots. Like, they don't exist. Ferguson showed a level of toughness that I have never seen, I've not seen in, I can't recall the last time I've seen a guy take a shot from a guy like Justin Gaethje. Like, a guy that notoriously hits really, really, really fucking hard and is fast and is elite. Like, to take those shots and just walk through them. He's getting clipped and getting hit clean with these shots. And he's not staggering. He's not walking. He's sort of like walking through the shots into the 4th round. He's like getting popped back a little bit, but he's not like getting significantly wobbled and staggered. And it was astounding to see a fighter be able to do that. Again, it's not the best thing to see, but from just a fighting perspective, from like an entertainment perspective, it was something special to see a guy be able to do that.
Yeah, but like I said, like his career has been shortened because of that.
Yeah, and that sucks.
We're gonna see less of him, and it's like, you know, yeah, why that didn't need to happen.
Yeah,
you know,
I agree. It kind of sucks. Again, I think Gaethje matches up really well with Khabib, which I think is a lot of fun.
Does he though? Like,
yeah, I do. And here's why: because Gaethje has really good wrestling, and we haven't seen a whole lot of it. But Gaethje is an All-American. Gaethje was an All-American in college while taking fights. Like, Gaethje's got really good wrestling, and we don't see it a whole lot, but he can do it. And he hits really, really hard. And that's sort of the area where Khabib is definitely the weakest, is his boxing and his stand-up. So I think Gaethje has a lot of the takedown defense kind of ingrained in how he fights and where he's going to be, that, yeah, Khabib's going to get him down. But Khabib has that record for most takedowns in the UFC, because guys can get back up. Like, guys can get back to their feet with Khabib. He's gotten significantly better as a top control grappler, and he can keep guys there a lot longer than he used to be able to do it. But I'm curious to see how with a guy like with Gaethje's wrestling, what kind of match up against that style. If
anything, I would say the thing that might be the saving grace, because like until I, it's one of those things where I'm just always going to assume Khabib is going to, if he gets a hand on you, like you are fucked. You are totally hosed. He's going to take you down, and it's going to be a whole world of hurt. I will say one thing that Justin did so well with Tony was manage the distance. Like he kept, like he managed the distance. He disrupted Tony from being able to get anything going, and his leg kicks might have been like a deciding factor in that, you know. And like if he can employ his leg kicks on Khabib to keep him at distance, and then keep him honest. I'm going to assume, not having seen Gaethje grapple, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna, the way Khabib has dominated everybody on the ground, I'm just going to assume that's a wash, man. So
I think it's a good fight. I'm honestly curious. I would love to see Ferguson versus Khabib as well. Like that fight has to get made eventually. Like please, UFC and Dana White.
I hope so too, because Tony's definitely deserved it.
Oh yeah.
And
I mean, they've made the fight what 6 times, 5 times.
5 times, yeah.
5 times they've been scheduled to fight. Like, we gotta see it, man. Like, deserve it or not, you make a fight 5 times. At this point, I'm invested. I want to see it.
Like, Tony, I think, would be stylistically so interesting, too. Because, he's got those weird funk rolls. Like, taking him down might actually be a little challenging. Just because it's, we've seen him, hit those, in the weirdest times.
Yeah, he does weird stuff. He's not going to react in a conventional way, and that may be detrimental, or that may work out really well. But I'm curious.
We saw it be detrimental this last. Yeah. I'm excited to see Justin versus Khabib.
Yeah, it's a good fight. Again, I think Justin is going to be a really good interim title holder. He's fun. I like Justin Gaethje. One of my favorite Justin Gaethje moments ever, aside from him knocking dudes out, was at the press conference. I think it was one of the Conor press conferences, and it's one of his first press conferences with the UFC, I think. And he's there on a mic, and somebody's doing something, and Justin Gaethje's just in the seat, just clapping his hands and having a great time about the chaos going on around him. And it was I just fucking love Justin Gaethje. He is such a fun guy. And he's a guy I'm so happy made it into the UFC. And has had the career he's had. Love that. Love watching that dude fight.
He might be one of those guys that, having those losses when he did ends up being really good, and it inoculates him to, basically gives him added toughness, and mental toughness there. And clearly, he revamped his game, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's great to see a fighter do that. So there's 2 other fights I want to talk about in this card, unless you got anything else on Ferguson versus Gaethje, which was a banger.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this whole card was great.
Yeah, dude. Pettis versus Cerrone. Pettis gets it done in really a great rematch. This was everything I could have hoped for. The first fight was good. This fight was exactly what I want to see for these 2 guys. 7 years later. The first fight was in 2013. 7 years later, these dudes up a weight class. It was a great fight.
I'm just glad to see Pettis chaining together some wins, because he took 3 or 4 L's in a row. There was a moment where I was he's not going to be in the UFC,
There was he took 4 losses, I think.
I think it was 4.
Yeah, and there was you got to win the next one, because UFC will usually only give you 3. If you're a champion, a well guy like Pettis or BJ, they'll give you a 4th and maybe a 5th, but usually by that 3rd, it gets a little shaky for even the veteran guys. And then puts it together, goes to welterweight. I mean, he made the cut down to 45 that one time, and everyone was like, "Yo, Pettis, don't do that. That was not good." Then he knocks out Wonder Boy, and yeah, I'm super happy to see it here. This was a great fight where both these guys in their career, I was super happy to see this fight go the way they went. And I was super happy to see both the guys, happy with each other at the end. I love Donald in any rematch he has, because he's always, super chummy with his opponent. It's really nice to see occasionally in fights.
Yeah. Yeah, just excited for both of those guys. I mean, it's awesome to see Anthony get the win. So we want to move on to Verdum versus Olenek.
Let's move on to that fight. That was interesting.
Yeah.
It was not quite the banger we thought it was going to be.
We didn't get to see the Ezekiel. Sorry.
That's fine. Yeah, not really. It was less fun. It was good. I think Olenek looked good here. He gets it done over Verdum, which is crazy at this stage of the career for Olenek. I'm not really sure where either guy goes. I'm not sure if Olenek is sort of creeping up. Again, at heavyweight, you're only ever 2 fights away from a title shot. A victory over a former world champion, especially a guy with the caliber of Verdum, kind of puts him on the short list to have to get knocked out by Ngannou, unfortunately. So there's that. On the lucky side, it does put Verdum at least 1 fight away from having to get knocked out by Ngannou. So there's a positive there, because I love Verdum.
Yeah.
Not a ton of takeaways here from the fight. I don't think Verdum looked the greatest here. But again, he's coming off a long layoff, so there's that, and he's been fighting forever.
Yeah. I had nothing more to say to that. So.
All right, want to move into Shockwave versus Verdum?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so UFC 249 was dope. I had a ton of fun watching it. It was great. Like it was a nice reminder that like stuff still goes on in quarantine. We're gonna get out of this. There's still gonna be fights. There's a fight like Wednesday, I think, or Tuesday. There's like a midweek fight, and then there's the Saturday or Friday fight. I think Overeem's fighting. So,
yeah, I think they're trying to make up their 42 fight per year contract with Disney. They're behind
40 or 42, so. I think. So yeah, get more fights out. I'm happy that again fighters are getting paid. If they can do it safely, if they can do it well, that's my hope for everyone. Is that that's the case? Is that it's done safely, it's done well. They put on entertaining shows and fights. Guys can compete. Guys can get paid, and all good things. So super happy with that. Yeah. Had a ton of fun watching it. Let's move on to the recap of the historical recap. We talk about Jacare versus Fabricio Verdum at the 2004. God damn it, I don't have my notes in front of me now. Emil, take it away while I find my notes.
The what do they call it? The World Cup, the Jiu-Jitsu World Cup in 2004. So this was unbelievable.
The Jiu-Jitsu World Cup was basically a competitor to the IBJJF, and it was a paid tournament down in Brazil. And at that time, it was actually like the bigger tournament where most of the guys were fighting because it was paid. The IBJJF was not. So you have this weird actual gap where a lot of you can make an argument, the better guys were actually fighting in this organization at the time. So which is why you get dope-ass fights like Fabricio Verdum versus Jacare.
Yeah. And this was actually, I guess, I was watching a historical retrospective video on this. This happened a week before the Worlds where Jacare faced off with Roger Gracie.
Yeah. In that epic match that we covered about a month ago or so. We talked about that match on the show.
So I was shocked with how well, I mean, there's definitely a size difference. Jacare is smaller, and Jacare dominated this match. Holy shit. Jacare ends up winning 10 points to 0. And it is nuts. Like, he starts off with an amazing knee pick takedown and changed that immediately into Toriano power. And he gets around Verdum's guard, and Verdum is forced to turtle and Granby roll. And Jacare takes his fucking back. But, by this point, Verdum is desperately fleeing the mat. And, there wasn't really much of a penalty for that. So they get reset. And Jacare is like, cool, I'm going to take you down again.
That was kind of the whole story of this match was Jacare implementing a takedown game and the way that he used the fireman. And at one point, honestly, there's a highlight from this match that I want to talk about. And kind of the piece that I want to talk about the most in this match is Jacare jumps sort of what do you call it, a flying triangle, Emil?
It's flying triangle. He doesn't connect his feet. And then he does an amazing adjustment. He posts out on his arm, he gets his leg in between Verdum's, and he does basically kind of like, think about like a deep half sweep motion, but he falls into it. And
This is from standing, by the way.
Like, just murks Verdum. Like, sweeps Verdum, takes him down, whatever you want to call it. It's an unreal adjustment, what he does. Like, you have to see it, because the speed with which he does the readjustment is just like blinding. It's absolutely amazing.
So I've seen this GIF and I've seen this highlight reel of Jacare. And for me, it looks like a flying triangle to almost like a pendulum sweep. And Emil described it a lot better. But what I love about this is I always remember this as happening as like the last thing that happened in the match before the match like ended with like 30 seconds left. This happens in like the beginning of the match, like 2.5 minutes into the match. This happens.
Yeah. Yeah, it happens pretty early on, and what's wild is Jacare lands on top, gets to side control, and controls Verdum for a long time there. And Verdum is eventually able to get up, and by this point is down many, many points, and you can see Verdum starting to get desperate and starting to engage with Jacare. Tries to do an Uchimata, fails. Jacare ends up on top again. They are back on their feet, and Verdum is pressuring in, and Jacare does basically like an over-the-back double leg that is like, I don't get, like, clearly Jacare is on a fucking different level. Like, he is just absolutely, like, he's tenacious is what it is. He does not give any inch, like, at all. So it's really incredible.
I love this match looking back kind of in retrospect, because you see so much more like dynamic judo takedowns in this match than we see in the modern era. And I think it's really interesting that you see both guys continue to stand, and you see very little like guard pulling. You see both guys working actively for the takedown. I think this match is about 16 years ago. So it's very interesting. It's also how these two guys matched up. You see other matches where guys pull guard, but in the matches that during quarantine we've watched from this era, from 2000, 1999, 2004, it's much more of a hallmark of the sport back then, as you see a much more dynamic takedown game. And it's been interesting to see kind of with the prominence of ADCC and ADCC becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. And in 2019, the giant event that it was, and it favors wrestling and takedown so much more. We're hearing a lot of camps like the DDS guys and like the fight sport guys and a lot of guys talking about having to actively work their wrestling and submission chains more and bringing in high-level wrestlers. So it's interesting to see the pendulum sort of swing from 99, 2004, this era, where you see takedowns as such a big scoring opportunity that's really on display in this match, contrasted with sort of the lull and a lot more of the guard work and guard pulling dynamic we saw up until a couple years ago, and now we're starting to see the importance and the shift back into like much more takedowns and top game. And it's been really interesting to kind of watch that, even as we've been doing the grappling rewind, so to see the dynamic shift.
Yeah. Yep. And it's not just in jiu-jitsu. Strategies and meta change like in football as well. So, where people are weak, people will try to take advantage of that. So super cool match. Go back and watch it. It's on X Combat TV News YouTube page. It's got like more than 500,000 views. From back in 2010 is when it was uploaded, but you can find it on YouTube. It's free. The match is about 10 minutes. It's cut down for when YouTube used to have the 10-minute limit. So they cut out a lot of like the resets and stuff, but it's a really great match, and it's a historic match from two guys that are still fighting in MMA. Ricardo Amendola does a nice little breakdown, which is like I think it's like a 2-minute video where he talks about some of the history behind it, and there's some really great breakdowns of this match, and you should definitely go back and watch it to understand sort of these guys, what they did, and then that era in jiu-jitsu, because it's cool. So that's all I got for that. Do you want anything else, Emil? That's it.
All right, so let's move into the preview section. Under our preview of Fight to Win 139, this event takes place in Dallas, Texas on May 15th, has a Friday, and it is headlined by a 230-pound black belt no-gi bout, Vinicius Ferreira, Tractor, versus Roberto Cyborg Abreu. I am psyched for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, was this one of the fights that Cyborg told us about, or is he starting to take new fights again?
I didn't expect a follow-up question, Emil.
Okay. Well, in any event, that's going to be dope.
It's going to be great. I think it's
Really
really cool.
exciting.
I am very
Johnny
curious.
Tama and Ethan Crawlinston are on this card
Yeah,
too.
they're going to
Damn.
co-main the card. I'm curious to see how Cyborg and Tractor kind of match up, because Cyborg and Tractor, I think Cyborg, former ADCC champion, been a monster competitor forever. We used to kind of like count him out a little bit because we thought he was losing a step, and then he came and dominated all of 2019. And I ate my words repeatedly and went, okay, I gotta stop picking against Cyborg. But Tractor, silver medalist at ADCC 2019, like looked amazing in that event. He's been also on a tear recently. I'm super curious to see, because both these guys are willing to play bottom. And in this fight to win rule set, I'm really curious, like, who will elect. I think Cyborg elects to pull here, and I'm curious to see if we see that tornado guard. But I don't know how Tractor is going to engage in the guard, and I'm really curious about that because I don't think that he'll be able to flatten Cyborg out, and so that makes me really curious to see how the match is going to go.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Either way, Crawlinston is going to be hot fire too. So these are two, at a minimum, two amazing matches that we get to see.
Yeah,
so.
Johnny Tama is a Nogi World Champion for IBJJF. He had the match where he got kneed in the face and bled everywhere in the finals. Was able to get it done. Ethan, I don't think Seth talked about he hadn't been on a fight to win before, but we've seen Ethan in like Nogi sub only rule sets before. Trials winner, both. This is actually a super good matchup. I think Tama's given up some weight here to Crawlinston, or no, Crawlinston is giving up weight to Tama. I know the weight's different. Somebody's given up weight here. I'm very interested to see because both these. I think this is a super well matched fight. So moving on to the next match, 195 pound black belt gi match, Kevin Williams versus Vinicius Cavallo Garcia. We have a 230 pound black belt gi match, Eddie Alvarar versus Victor Doria. 185 pound black belt gi match, Igor Paiva versus Jeff Hammond. 205 pound black belt gi match, Yuri Santos versus Andre Gomez. 210 pound black belt no gi match, Cameron Couch versus Paulo Ambuzula. We have a brown belt title fight in the Masters division, Tyler Mira versus Bobby Alexander. We then got a slew of other brown belt and purple belt title fights on the card. I think Seth is actually still working on this card. So that's all we have right now. There's no other black belt matches on the card, but still, for like a local card and you're flying other guys into the event, like, dude, I'm just happy to have Fight to Win back.
Yep, absolutely. And then there's a whole new card too.
And then the following day, again, Fight to Win 140 in Dallas, Texas. Do you have anything else on 39? All right, this one's headlined by AJ Agazarm versus Oswaldo Casino. This is a gi match too.
That'll be interesting. Yeah, we haven't seen AJ compete in a little bit. So
I think
he's returning.
Polaris would be the last time we saw him compete, and it might have been the Benson Henderson fight. Back in Players.
Yeah,
I know it's been a
while.
minute. I think he's taken 3 or 4 MMA fights in Bellator since we've last covered him on the show. Dude, AJ's really, really tricky. Everyone loves to give him shit. He just did an interview with someone from, I'm going to kill it, I forget who it was, but it was about an hour interview where he talked about moving in with Nick Diaz, being with Nick Diaz during training, being quarantined with Nick Diaz and like training for a triathlon. Really interesting interview. Kind of talked about he needed to change his mindset up and change like his game up, and that's why he's with the Diaz brothers. So super interesting about that. This is a really, like, again, another really, really well-matched fight between these two guys.
Yeah.
Co-main event.
And then...
Yep, Emil, go for it. One more time, Emil, because we're dealing with the recording messing up.
250...
Yep, do the co-main again.
Okay. 185-pound black belt gi match, Roberto Jimenez versus Gabriel Almeida.
I am hyped. Wait, hold up.
That's going to be an amazing match.
I'm hyped for that match, dude. Roberto, we saw him versus Hulk, and then he lost to Hulk, and then he went into quarantine, and so I assume he is itching to get back in the win column after that, because that was his first loss at black belt. and then he's now been in quarantine for 2 months. So I think he is going to come out like we saw him at Third Coast Grappling at brown belt on fire in this match. Like, I think this is going to be a barn burner match. So, next match, we have a 215-pound black belt gi match. We have Stefan Pisano Hall versus Buddy Roberts. We have a 175-pound black belt gi match. Rodrigo Lopez versus Joe Murphy. We have a 185-pound brown belt no gi match. Tony Ferguson versus Michael Salazar. We got a bunch of other brown belts on the card and purple belts on the card. Again, looks like a really fun event. We're gonna cover 2 fight to wins in one show.
Yeah,
I think that's a first.
It's back, man. Absolutely.
So I am ready. You got anything else you want to end on? I mean, that's fight to win. I am so excited these guys are back and running events. It's going to be streamed. They're going to be at low occupancy, so they're probably going to like put a bunch more into the stream, which I'm super curious about how they do. And a fight to win's always sort of innovating and changing up what they're doing. So I'm curious to see, what Seth and the whole fight to win crew do differently with these fight to wins, because they're always doing innovative shit. And of course, we have lost Emil.
Hey.
What's up? You're back?
Yep.
All right, we're good. Keep going.
So.
I apologize for everyone. We're in the outro section, so I don't want to cut it now. If you've made it this far, I really thank you for making it this far.
Yeah. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how things begin to thaw and move forward. But it's exciting to have things lined up. But other than that, it's going to be a chill week. Just again, working on yoga. Looking forward to the day I get to do jiu-jitsu again. So
me too, dude. I've been running more, like almost every single day now, and it's terrible. Like, I'm bringing my mile times down and my 2 mile times and my 5K time down, but I am not, how you say, having a good time, bro, doing it. I feel stronger and my cardio is getting there, but it sucked the entire time. So, it is what it is. I'm still going through instructionals and doing a bunch of stuff on the back end of the Grappling Rewind. So next week, we should have some really cool announcements for the Grappling Rewind. I'm getting a lot of stuff together, and I'm getting very excited to announce a couple of things. So look out for that. Follow us on social media, other good stuff. Emil, you got anything else?
That's it, man.
All right. Well, as always on the show, I'm your host, Maine, joined with my co-host. And, of course, the recording cuts out right now. So pretend Emil said his name. And we are the Grappling Rewind. We'll see you on the mats. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.